They stopped texting first, and that tells you everything. They stopped texting first. No big announcement, no explanation, no final message that gave you closure. They just stopped. And somehow that silence said more than anything they ever put into words. At first, you told yourself they were busy. Everyone gets busy. Life gets heavy sometimes. People pull back when they are overwhelmed. You gave them the benefit of the doubt because that is what you do when you care about someone. You protect their reasons, even when those reasons are hurting you. But the days kept passing, and the silence kept growing. And somewhere in the middle of all that waiting, you started to feel something you did not want to feel. The truth? Not the comfortable version. The real one. The one that had been trying to reach you for a while, but you kept talking yourself out of hearing it. They stopped texting first, and that tells you everything. Number one, when you first noticed it, it did not feel like a big moment when it happened. It never does. One day you looked at your conversation and realized something quietly uncomfortable. The last message was yours, and the one before that, and the one before that. And somewhere along the way, without any announcement or explanation, the dynamic had shifted. You had become the one always reaching, always initiating, always the one keeping the conversation alive. And you noticed it. Of course you noticed it. But you told yourself it did not mean anything. People get busy. Life gets complicated. It is not always about effort. Sometimes it is just timing. So you sent another message, and you waited. And when they replied, you felt relief wash over you. See? It was nothing. Everything is fine. But everything was not fine. Because the next time the silence came, it lasted a little longer, and the time after that, a little longer still. And slowly the pattern became undeniable, even to the part of you that desperately wanted to deny it. Number two, when you started making excuses for them. This is the part nobody talks about. The quiet work you did to protect a dynamic that was already telling you the truth. You told yourself they were going through something. You told yourself they were not a big texter. You told yourself that connection is not always measured in messages. You found every possible explanation that did not require you to accept what you were actually seeing. Because accepting it meant something you were not ready for. It meant that the effort was one-sided, that you were giving more than you were receiving, that the person you cared about was not matching your energy and had not been for a while. And that is a painful thing to accept when you are in the middle of caring deeply about someone. So you kept reaching, you kept initiating, you kept the conversation alive because the silence felt unbearable and doing something felt better than sitting with the truth. But here is what that cost you. Every message you sent without them reaching first trained something in you to accept less. Every time you bridged the silence, you made it easier for them to let you do it again. And slowly, without realizing it, you became the only one trying. And they became comfortable letting you. Number three, when the silence finally became impossible to explain away. At some point, the excuses ran out. Not because you stopped caring, but because the evidence became too clear to keep reinterpreting. The replies came slower, the conversations felt shorter, the energy on their side felt distant in a way that no amount of hope could disguise anymore. And that is when the real pain arrived. Not the pain of them being busy, not the pain of bad timing, the pain of clarity. The quiet, devastating understanding that if they wanted to text first, they would. People make time for what matters to them. People reach out to who they are thinking about. People initiate with the ones they do not want to lose. And they were not initiating, which meant something you had been avoiding knowing for weeks or months had been sitting there the whole time waiting for you to finally stop looking away. They stopped texting first, not because life got in the way, because you were not the first thing on their mind anymore, and that truth, as much as it hurts, is the most important information you could have. Number four, when you understood what it really meant. Here is what nobody tells you about one-sided effort. It does not just hurt your feelings, it changes you. Every time you reached out and got back less than you gave, something small shifted inside you. You started reading into responses that came too slowly. You started analyzing punctuation and response times and the length of their messages. You started trying to decode what their silence meant because their words were no longer enough to feel sure about where you stood. And that is exhausting. That kind of hypervigilance around someone who is supposed to make you feel safe is not love. It is anxiety. It is what happens when someone's inconsistency teaches your nervous system to stay on alert. You are not being dramatic. You are responding to real information, the information that their effort was communicating every single day. And that information was telling you that the security you were looking for was not something they were offering. That is not about your worth. That is about their capacity. And those are two completely different things. Number five, when you finally stopped reaching. The day you stopped texting first was not the day you gave up. It was the day you chose yourself. It was not easy. The urge to reach out did not disappear overnight. There were moments when you typed a message and deleted it, moments when the silence felt so loud that filling it seemed easier than sitting with it, Moments when you almost convinced yourself that one more message would change something, but you did not send it. And in that choice, however small it felt in the moment, something important began. Because the moment you stopped reaching, you created the conditions for the truth to become visible. Not just to you, to them. For the first time, the silence was not yours to fill, it was theirs. And what they did with it told you everything you needed to know. Some people reach back. They feel the shift and they respond to it. They realize what they were taking for granted and they show up differently. And if that happens, it is worth paying attention to. Not with immediate forgiveness, but with open eyes. But some people do not reach back. And that silence, the one they choose when they are no longer being chased, is the most honest thing they have ever communicated to you. It confirms what the pattern was always telling you, that their interest was conditional on your pursuit, that without the chase, there was not enough there to sustain the connection. And knowing that, as painful as it is a gift. Because now you're not spending your energy on something that was never going to give you what you needed. Now you can take everything you were pouring into that silence and redirect it somewhere that actually holds it. So if you are watching this and you have been the one always texting first, hear this. Your consistency was never weakness. Your effort was never too much. You were simply giving something real to someone who did not know how to receive it. Stop reaching for people who are comfortable letting you carry everything. Stop filling silences that they are not uncomfortable leaving. Stop making it easy for someone to keep you without choosing you. Because you do not need someone who only responds. You need someone who reaches, someone who thinks of you and acts on it, someone who closes the distance because they cannot imagine leaving it open. You deserve someone who texts first. If this video spoke to something you have been feeling, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. And in the comments, tell me, have you ever been the one always texting first? And what did you do when you finally stopped? Because sometimes the most powerful message you can send is the one you choose not to.